All right, so let's jump into what I promised all of you before you came tonight, and that is, what are digital assets, what are crypto? I want everyone in here tonight to leave with more knowledge about crypto than before you came in tonight. So let's get into that. First off, what is crypto? The good news is, if you become a student, you don't have to worry about the technical aspects of crypto. That's our job. Coach Marvy, Coach Greg, Coach Nicholas, myself, we do the heavy lifting. We do the research. We know which cryptos are the good ones, which ones are the bad ones. And I will tell you right now, I'm going to repeat this over and over, 99% of cryptos are worthless. But 1% are game changers. And we focus on those 1%. Now, again, if you become a student, it's our job to do that research. You just relax and enjoy your life. If you become a student, you'll average about 30 minutes a day. Just managing your trades, very simple, very easy. I'm going to explain here in a few minutes how that works. But a good analogy would be that we invented the car. We engineered the car. Your job is just to drive the car. So your job is the easy part. All right, but I do want to do my best to educate all of you on what crypto is and digital assets. So let's jump into that now. So what is crypto? It's real simple. Crypto's technology. A lot of people make it confusing and complicated. You may have heard different definitions out there, but it's this simple. Crypto is technology. Now, what are digital assets? Digital assets is an ownership in any technology. Now, the most popular technology right now is crypto, but there are other types of digital assets, but crypto is the most popular one. So tonight, when I say digital assets or crypto, I mean the same thing. Okay, so I don't want that to confuse you. I want everyone to take a look at this next slide. Take a minute, look at some of the companies on this slide. This is a small fraction of the companies that invest in crypto and or utilize crypto for their business. There are thousands of companies around the world right now that invest in crypto and or use crypto for their business. There's two companies I want to highlight on here. One is Fidelity, the other one's BlackRock. By show of hands, how many of you have heard of Fidelity or BlackRock? Most of you? Okay. These are two giant asset managers. I'm going to focus on the bigger of the two, and this is BlackRock. For those of you that follow the news, especially the business news, you probably heard about this, but this is some recent news about BlackRock and Fidelity and about 6 other asset managers. But number one, I want to point out, BlackRock is the largest asset manager in the world. They currently manage over $10 trillion in assets. They recently filed for a spot Bitcoin ETF, and they have over 10,000 salespeople. Now, an ETF, if you've never heard of that, it's an exchange-traded fund. This is a way for you to be able to buy a basket of equities or commodities through your traditional brokerage, like E-Trade, for example. Well, now you're going to be able to invest in Bitcoin directly through your brokerage account, thanks to BlackRock and Fidelity and other companies. But what I want to highlight here is this right here: over 10,000 salespeople. I want you to imagine when this ETF is approved, and BlackRock has a 99.9% success rate of getting their ETFs approved through the SEC. I estimate this to be approved early next year. But when this is approved, every sales rep for BlackRock and Fidelity and the other 6 companies are going to be on the phone with their clients, and they're going to be recommending Bitcoin. I guarantee you. This is going to happen. This is huge news. This is huge for Bitcoin and the entire crypto industry. Bitcoin is the mothership of cryptos. And when I say the mothership, what I mean by that is when Bitcoin goes up, the other blue chip cryptos fall. Any of you that know anything about crypto, you see those patterns. So this is huge news. Let's dive a little deeper into Bitcoin. By a show of hands, how many of you know the maximum supply of Bitcoin? Anybody in here know? Okay, nobody knows. Well, I'm going to tell you. This is the maximum supply of Bitcoin. 21 million. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. ever. It's written in the code. It can't be changed. Now, this is the maximum supply of Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is decentralized. What does that mean? Decentralized means that it's not controlled by any government, and it's not controlled by any company or bank. It is decentralized. Bitcoin is an extremely rare commodity. Bitcoin's not a company, it's a commodity. Now, I have another question. By show of hands, how many of you know to the nearest billion, how many people live in the world? What's the world? Anybody know? What's your guess?
Billions.
8 billion. He is correct. 8 billion people. Now these 8 billion people, I want you to stop for just 1 second and think about the numbers. I'm a math guy. 8 billion people, only 21 million Bitcoin. Think about that just for a minute. But I want to talk about these 8 billion people. They all live in a centralized economy. What is a centralized economy? It's their currency is controlled by their government. It's also devalued by unlimited printing. I talked earlier about my wife, Marvy. You probably heard an accent if you spoke to her. My wife is from Venezuela. If you followed the news or the economy around the world, Venezuela has experienced what they call hyperinflation. We've had some inflation here in America, 5-10%. I know it's been difficult on most of us. In the year 2020, Venezuela experienced 3,000% inflation. My wife would tell me stories. You want to buy something in Venezuela? They take a stack of cash and they put it on a scale and they weigh it. You want to buy a hot dog? They don't even count the money. They just weigh it. The currency is worthless in Venezuela and other countries, Argentina, Turkey. I can go on and on with hyperinflation. But let's bring it home. Let's talk about America. This is called dollar devaluation. Dollars have lost 90% of their purchasing power since 1950 as politicians printed more of them. This is not a train I want to be on. Every year, the money in our pocket goes down in value. A lot of people don't even realize this. It inflates away. Now, this is a train I do want to be on. This is the last 14 years of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin adoption. This is from 2009 to today. This chart shows that over 1 million Bitcoin addresses hold at least one full Bitcoin or more. You can see this consistently goes up every year. Again, this is the train I want to be on. I want to store my wealth here, not in a devalued currency in the fiat system. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into Bitcoin. Bitcoin was invented in the year 2008. It was invented by someone that used the username of Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto is not a real person. Satoshi Nakamoto was the username behind the white paper for Bitcoin. Something that's fun. If you do become a student, I have a theory, and I'm 99.9% sure my theory is correct. I know the real person behind Satoshi Nakamoto. I know the person that wrote the white paper and invented Bitcoin. If you become a student, I promise to share with you one-on-one who this person is, and I will give you the facts and the reasons of how I know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. So that's something to look forward to if you become a student. Remind me of that. Now, Bitcoin in 2009 is when the first block was mined. What is the block? How many of you heard the blockchain? Yeah, a few of you. Okay, blockchain technology, thanks to Bitcoin, is a newer technology. But anyone you talk to that understands technology, mathematics, accounting, the blockchain is amazing technology. Bitcoin is on the blockchain. Now, the first block was mined again in 2009, and in 2010 was the first real-world transaction for Bitcoin. Does anyone in here know what the first real-world transaction for Bitcoin was? Anybody? Okay. Somebody, what did you say?
Pizza.
Pizza. She is correct. 2 pizzas. This was the first real world transaction for Bitcoin. Somebody paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas in 2010. Those 2 pizzas today are worth $250 million. Back then, they were probably worth about $25. But what this slide demonstrates, Bitcoin has been the #1 performing asset over the last 13 years. Nothing has come close to it. This was the first transaction. Now, a lot of people ask me, Bitcoin, I'm confused. Can you simplify it? I remember when I was in business school back in college, my professor told me, he said, you want to be successful in business? You got to use the KISS philosophy. What do you mean KISS? He said, keep it simple, stupid. So I'm going to try to keep things as simple as possible. This is the easiest way to think about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is digital gold. Think about gold. Why does somebody buy a bar of gold? They buy it because they hope in 10 years from now it's worth more than it is today. It's a store of value. Bitcoin is the same thing. It's a store of value. Bitcoin is an extremely rare commodity. There's only 21 million. One of the big advantages from Bitcoin and gold is if the price of gold starts going up, they go out and they start digging up more gold. So that supply and demand never kicks in. But with Bitcoin, they can't increase the supply of Bitcoin. Another big advantage with Bitcoin, you want to buy a house with Bitcoin, you can do that now. You want to buy a car with Bitcoin, you can do that now. So that's a lot of utility. But the best way to think about Bitcoin is that it's digital gold. This number is a fun number for me. It has 2 things going for it. Number 1, there are currently over 100 million people that own Bitcoin right now. You might be thinking to yourself, how is that possible? There's only 21 million Bitcoin. How can 100 million people own it? Well, that's the second part of this number. You can own a fraction of a Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a full Bitcoin. They're called Satoshis. This is where this other number comes in. 100 million Satoshis equals 1 Bitcoin. Satoshi was smart enough to know that one day this was going to go up in value and you need to have a smaller fraction of it. Think of 100 pennies equaling $1. It's the same concept. But 100 million Satoshis equals 1 Bitcoin. So you can buy Satoshis. Let's say you want to buy $1 worth of Satoshis. What will it get you? This is what $1 will get you right now. 4,000 sats. What are sats? Satoshis. It's just a shortened version. One of my predictions in 10 years from now is everybody in this room will be buying their groceries in sats. This will be a household name in about 10 years from now. Another fun fact, this is called Satoshi Island. This is real, not a joke. This is an island in the South Pacific, very close to Australia, and it's currently under construction. In less than a year, people will be living on this island, and this is what it's going to look like in about a year from now. 21,000 citizens. Crypto will be the only currency accepted on the island. There will be more of these islands popping up. Right now, there's already countries that have made Bitcoin legal tender. You own Starbucks in El Salvador, for example, you have to accept Bitcoin. You own a McDonald's, you have to accept Bitcoin. This is starting to spread around the world. Now this next slide, this might seem a little mind-boggling to you. And it's $100 trillion. You're probably thinking, where am I going with this? $100 trillion. By a show of hands, how many of you have heard of the baby boomer generation? Most of them. It is estimated the baby boomer generation right now currently owns approximately $100 trillion of assets. My parents fall into the baby boomer generation. Unfortunately, my mom passed away about 10 years ago. She was 74 years old. My father, still alive, he's doing really well. He's 83 years old right now. and he's a baby boomer. So where am I going with this? The point I want to make here is, unfortunately, we don't live forever. The baby boomer generation is going to be transferring $100 trillion to the younger generations over the next 10 years. This is what I think the next 10 years are going to look like. The baby boomers will be transferring their wealth to Gen X, where I fall in, millennials, like my son, and Gen Z. Got any grandkids or kids that might fall in that category? Generation X, that's where I'm at. I'm very comfortable with technology. In high school, I took a computer class. Taught me how to write code. I remember getting my first PC in high school. It was an IBM personal computer, and I had this fancy dot matrix printer that went way. I thought it was so high-tech and so cool. When cell phones came out, I got one of the first cell phones. When the internet started evolving, I got onto the internet. I'm very comfortable with technology. My father, he's not very comfortable with technology. If I want to see my dad now, we either have to talk on the phone or see each other face to face. He wants nothing to do with email and texting. This is the baby boomer generation. Now, of course, you get into millennials and especially Gen Z. They probably came out of the womb with little cell phones ready to go. The younger generations are comfortable with technology. They're comfortable in this digital world. Baby boomers aren't. But you have to think about the future. Do you want to invest your wealth into what's going to be happening in the future or what happened in the past? So I made a decision, partly based on this, is that I want to be part of the future. I want my wealth to grow, my investment to grow. So back to this number here, $100 trillion transferred. Let's be conservative and say only 10% of that $100 trillion goes into digital assets with these younger generations who are super comfortable with Bitcoin and crypto and NFTs and all these things. Let's say only 10%, that's $10 trillion. Right now, the entire market cap of crypto is $1 trillion. This is a 10x over the next 10 years. This is what I think is the reality of the future. Now, let's change gears. What are altcoins? Very simple. Altcoins is anything that's not Bitcoin. There are over 20,000 altcoins right now. I know I said it earlier, but I'm going to repeat it over and over. 99% of cryptos are worthless. But again, 1% are game changers. Let's talk about a couple of those game changers. First one is called a stablecoin. How many of you have ever heard of stablecoins? Anybody? Okay, a few of you. Stablecoin. This is an altcoin. Easiest way to describe a stablecoin is that it's a digital dollar. Stablecoins are tied to the US dollar one for one. They're pegged to the US dollar. They never change in value. There's no volatility. Okay. Now, there's two stablecoins on here I want to talk about. This first one is called PayPal. How many of you heard of PayPal? Most of you? Okay. PayPal recently came out with their own stablecoin. It's called PYUSD. PayPal has over 400 million customers worldwide. They now are able to buy a stablecoin that runs on top of the Ethereum network, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. And they can transfer money anywhere around the world to friends and family. And it's tied to the dollar because it's not changing value. Now this other stablecoin right here, it's called USDC. This one's been out for a long time. This is the one I use most often. I send payments in USDC. I receive payments in USDC. All through the blockchain. It stays dollar for dollar. These are called stablecoins. Next is the biggest altcoin of them all. It's called Ethereum. There's nothing that comes close to Ethereum in regards to the size. But let's talk about Ethereum. The easiest way to think about Ethereum is it's digital oil. What does oil do? Oil makes things work. Everything we do in life, unfortunately, we need oil to make it work. Well, Ethereum is a network that's similar to oil, but To make things simple, I want all of you to think about the United States. I want you to think about the interstate highway system around the United States. Our hardworking men and women built this highway system around the United States so we can travel state to state without stop signs, without stoplights, to visit friends and family. And this was built in America. It's a network of highways. But what happened when those highways were built? Businesses started popping up on those highways. We've all seen restaurants and hotels and billboards. This is what's happening with Ethereum. Ethereum is a computer network that you're able to, as a business owner, build on top of. Now what do you build up? What do you build with? They're called dApps. They're decentralized applications. So the same thing as the apps on your phone right now, except they're called dApps. They're decentralized. And they run on top of the Ethereum network. Now, some of the more popular dApps right now, gaming, shopping, music. I was a big gamer when I was a kid. I had my Atari and Nintendo, and I don't play video games very much anymore, but if you have kids or grandkids, they love to play their games. Shopping, we all shop. Shopping's getting very big on top of Ethereum. And then music. A lot of us love music, becoming very popular. Now this question, or this next slide, is a question I get asked all the time. So I'm going to address it right now. People always ask, well, how do you use crypto? How does it benefit my life? How does it benefit the world? What are the use cases for crypto? There are dozens of use cases, but I'm going to highlight some right here. These are 8 popular use cases right now for crypto. Number 1, it improves settlement times. Instant, no more pending. I bank with Wells Fargo. I have a few credit cards with Capital One. How many of you have ever gone online to check your statement and saw a little category that said pending transactions? Some of you see pending also. Well, if you don't know what a pending transaction means, it means it hasn't settled. Our legacy financial system is very outdated. Sometimes you have to wait 1, 2, or 3 days for those pending transactions to actually settle. With crypto, there's no more pending transactions. Everything is instant. Now next, it's cheaper to send money overseas. No more Western Union. I have lived in other countries. I currently have friends and family that live in other countries. I have sent money overseas to friends and family, and normally use Western Union or MoneyGram. But if you've ever sent money to a friend or family member in another country, Western Union, for example, they will always gouge you with fees. I don't use Western Union anymore. What I use is that stablecoin I talked about earlier, USDC. Doing this, I'm not gouged with fees anymore. I can send $1,000 to a friend for less than a penny, thanks to crypto. Next, it's a new way for artists to be paid, NFTs. If you're a musician or an artist, you now can protect your artwork. You can now share your artwork and sell your artwork in small fractions to your fans. You can copyright your music. You can trademark your music, all through the blockchain. Next, updating our financial system 24/7. Crypto doesn't sleep. It operates 24/7. I'm sure a lot of us here are used to the legacy financial system, the business hours of Monday through Friday, maybe a little bit on Saturday. Well, again, that's a very old-fashioned legacy financial system. Crypto is 24/7. Next, title ownership, homes and vehicles. Local governments all over the United States are now moving to the blockchain. You want to record your title of your home, it goes on the blockchain now, your automobile going to the blockchain, and this is spreading around the country and around the world. Next, I wrote licensing, fishing. You want to go to Wyoming and do some fishing? You buy some crypto, get your fishing license through the blockchain. Again, this is spreading around the country. Merchant fees decreasing, less than a penny. How many of you here have ever owned a business? Any business owners? Okay, a few of you. You're going to understand this a lot. I mentioned back in 1987 I decided to pivot, go into the entrepreneurial life. So I've been a business owner for over 30 years. The business I've owned most of my adult life is a pet supply company. And this pet supply company accepts credit cards, MasterCard, Visa, Discover, American Express. Whenever we sell pet supplies, we have to pay a fee to MasterCard and Visa. Let's say it's a $1,000 transaction. I'm paying $20 to $30 for that transaction for the privilege of accepting MasterCard and Visa. Well, that's changed for my business and a lot of other businesses. You now can accept stablecoins. Stablecoin I talked to earlier, that's pegged 1 for 1. Most of my transactions nowadays are with USDC, that's stablecoin. If I receive money, I receive it in that, I send it. I can now sell $1,000 worth of pet supplies and pay 1 penny for that transaction, not $20 or $30. Imagine that the millions of businesses around the world, this is starting to happen. If you follow the news, Visa and MasterCard are now starting to see this, and Visa just partnered with USDC through one of the blockchains to now start to be able to offer this to everybody. So this is some exciting news. And then last, probably my favorite use case, reshaping the internet, Web3. I want you to think about the internet. Think about the early days of the internet. All you could do in the early days was read. There were static images, and all you could do was read. Now the internet evolved, what they call Web 2. Web 2 is the world we live in right now. Web 2 is where you can read and write. It opened up the door for blogging, for social media. Now, the thing I don't like about Web 2, and you probably don't like it either, unless you don't realize this, a lot of people think Google's free, and Facebook's free, and Instagram, and all these social, they think they're free. Well, if you don't know this, you're the product. I'm the product. I have spent millions of dollars with Google and Facebook and YouTube and Pinterest and Instagram and Twitter. Before I retired, I was spending all this money on advertising my pet supply business. I'll give you an example. I'm on the phone with my Facebook rep, and she says, well, who's your target audience? I said, well, the ideal person would be someone that just got a new puppy. And she said, okay, well, here's a post from Susie. She's writing on her Facebook page that she's getting a new puppy next month. Would she be an ideal person to target? I said, yeah, it's perfect. And she says, okay, well, we're going to send your ad out to everyone that seems and has a similar profile as Susie, and you're going to pay us $1 every time they click on your ad. Well, that sounds fair. Okay, sign me up. Let's do it. So they send my ad out, and I pay Facebook $1 every time somebody clicks on my ad. Web3 changes this completely. Web3 is under construction as we speak. It'll be the internet we're all part of in the future. Web3, you will now own your own data. For example, just got a new puppy, and you see my ad, I'm going to pay you $1 to click on my ad, not Facebook. So this is a summary of the future of the internet. Web 1, all we can do is read. Web 2, read and write. Web 3, which is happening as we speak, read, write, and own. You will finally be able to take back your identity and your data, and you'll be compensated for this. And there's dozens of other benefits to Web 3, but we'd be here all night if I got into those. So, all right, so let's change gears again. Why do most investors fail?